Overwhelm, frustration, exhaustion. Is it a boundary issue? And are you struggling to communicate your needs? Well, today we're tackling how to communicate your boundaries, set limits effectively so that you can reclaim your time, your energy, and your joy. It's going to be an incredible episode, so stay tuned. Are you a big-hearted, ambitious woman feeling completely fried by overwhelm and burnout? Do you crave a life of purpose and joy but feel stuck in a cycle of stress and exhaustion? Welcome to Burnout to Bliss, the podcast that empowers you to finally break free, reconnect with yourself, and create a life you absolutely love on your own terms. I'm Dr. Fee, and I'm passionate about helping women like you pour love into themselves first so they can actually enjoy their success and embrace their bliss. So get ready to expand your life beyond what you thought was possible in healing, love, leadership, success, purpose, and wealth. Today, you are in for an absolute treat because we are tackling a crucial piece of the boundary puzzle, and that is communication. And this is so important if you're a big-hearted, ambitious woman stuck in overwhelm, high-functioning burnout, or desiring to claim life in your own terms, because this will build upon the last episode where we covered the 3 steps to implementing boundaries that actually stick to honor your time, energy, and joy. And the first step is recognizing it's a boundary issue. The second is communicating your needs, and we're going to dive into this deeper today. And the third is all about taking consistent action. Okay, consistency is key when it comes to setting boundaries that really honor you and help you to claim your life on your terms. Now, boundaries are the invisible lines that help you to create safety, trust, assurance, validation, respect, love, connection with others. Okay, you think about this. The reason why boundaries are important is because it's an expectation, it's a need that we get to really reinforce in our relationship so that our emotional needs are being met in that relationship, circumstance, event. So, appreciating that there are underlying emotional and energetic factors to setting boundaries, that's so important. But it isn't just about what you think and how you feel inside. Okay. It's actually about how you then express those needs to the people around you. Communication. And of course, these two are very interconnected. There's factors within us that might block how we speak up, express our truth, and vice versa, how we actually express ourselves will limit or support us when it comes to really nurturing and nourishing ourselves in life. So let's be honest, this is where things get really, really, really tricky. And we can often fall into communication traps that totally sabotage our efforts, jeopardize our success, our health, our love life. And for me personally, when it came to communicating my boundaries, I got to a point where I realized I just didn't. I wasn't consistent with it. I didn't even really know that it was important. There were so many times where I thought this should just be common sense. Like I'd just rely on that. Well, I know it, so they should too. They should just know what I need. Or maybe, it's because I've had the conversation before and I just assume it's enough. Does that resonate with you? And this is where we need to hold the mirror up to ourselves. These assumptions only set us up for disappointment and resentment. We expect others to be mind readers. That was me. And when they inevitably fall short because, well, people aren't, it's near impossible to be a mind reader. We end up feeling really frustrated and unheard. And all of that frustration and resentment, it's heavy emotions. It fuels our burnout, it drains our energy, it leaves us feeling absolutely depleted, if not broken. But here's the good news. There is a different way that is in our control, is fully our responsibility, and it's a way to communicate our needs effectively so that our relationships actually transform, so that we can get more support, ask and receive that support, enjoy guilt-free me time, and create space for what truly matters. Okay, and that is what living life on your own terms is all about. As you can see, this boundary conversation is so important. Now, another obstacle we often face is our own ego. When we're already feeling resentful, the thought of having to communicate our needs can feel like a huge burden. And it's also a sense of like, from that frustration and resentment, it's like, why should I have to spell it out? Now, I might be alone in that, but I'm certain I'm not. In fact, I know with my clients, they resonate with this too. And it's like that sense of that resistance. It comes from a very valid feeling that our needs aren't being respected in the first place. And I covered this in last week's episode, or the last episode, around boundaries and that underlying emotional and energetic factors that play out and can trip us up when it comes to having healthy, kind, resourceful relationships. Yeah. But here's the thing: clear communication is absolutely the bridge. Like, you're here and you want to get there when it comes to living life on your own terms. Clear communication is the bridge to you finally getting your needs met and breaking free of life as you know it now, in that stuck in that autopilot mode, survival mode, that exhausting burnout cycle. And this is where the real inner work comes in. Okay, to bridge that gap, it's why I equip my clients with a bliss toolbox. Powerful tools that help them to stay aligned with what they actually want, like deeper connection and intimacy with their partner, more confidence, authenticity in their work relationships, addressing the underlying emotions, like resentment and frustration, is so important when it comes to communication. People feel us, not just hear us. But it's also around what actually, that they are the things that trip us up in actually implementing boundaries. Boundaries are so crucial in our relationships, for healthy, loving, intimate relationships and more, and life, having time and space for the things that matter most, your values, living in absolute integrity to your values. So let's talk about, how do we navigate all of these challenges? And it all starts with understanding how to communicate effectively. Now, for me, I had to learn what assertive communication is, and it took a lot of time and a lot of effort to shift my default in communication, especially if I was emotionally triggered. If there was like, it's easy when everything's all peace, love, and mung beans, but when you get pushed or triggered, it can be very difficult to speak in a very clear and assertive way. Like, often I'd find myself apologizing, like, I'm so sorry. Anytime I try to implement a boundary, I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, but I have to say no. Or I'd have to justify why I said no, and be like this long-winded answer full of guilt and worry and disappointment. And, at the end of the day, that's hard. It's hard work living life, apologizing or justifying why you say no, why you need to take, why setting a boundary. And at the end of the day, you having a boundary is perfect. It's important that you say no. It's important that you set limits. It's important that you communicate your needs to other people and put in place standards and uphold other people to standards as well, so that you have healthy, resourceful, kind relationships. With time and practice, I realize it's about expressing your needs really clearly, respectfully, and being specific and direct. Now, here's a big takeaway message: avoid vague language or hints. And that was pretty much my whole way. My default when it came to communicating was like, just vague. I didn't want to upset. I didn't want to seem needy. I didn't want to seem selfish. But it doesn't create clarity. Instead of saying like, I need some space, especially as a mum, to your family, like, I just need some space. If you try something more specific and direct, like, I need an hour of uninterrupted time to focus on this project. Once that's done, I will come and find you. This is exactly what kids need to hear. And I know a lot of the mums probably tuning in be like, oh, I've tried that, but I would love you to really tune into how you communicate your boundaries to your children, your partner, and realize that sometimes it takes a little time and practice, and you need to have a big context for this work. You can't just say a different statement once and set a boundary in a different way and expect it to be upheld, which is why step 3 which is consistency in your action is so important when it comes to boundaries that stick. Now, the clearer you are, the better others will understand your needs, which minimizes the potential for frustration and a sense of being disrespected and overwhelmed for everyone involved. And I want you to think of it as the sweet spot between passive communication, where you avoid expressing your needs altogether, you withdraw, silent treatment, even, and being aggressive, where you just bulldoze over others, or you get angry, reactive, frustrated, you kind of like the volcano because you've sort of been pushing your needs down until you can't and it's all out. Now, another example is that, if a colleague keeps asking you to cover their shifts, just as an example, instead of snapping, because it's just like, oh, don't you, like the reality is, chances are you are just barely keeping everything afloat, spinning many, many plates at once. Instead of snapping or silently agreeing out of resentment or a need because you don't want to upset them, and you really want to help them, and you don't want to disappoint them, and it's important to you to help them, you could say instead, look, I understand you need coverage, but I'm already committed that day. Like you can just be so specific and direct, acknowledge what people need or ask of you, but say no in a clear way. It's like, I'm already committed that day. I don't have the capacity to take anything you on. Okay. Now, you can also add in things like a potential solution, but it's not actually required of you. A boundary is a boundary. You don't need to fix anyone or fix a solution, create a solution. But I sometimes like to add in, like, perhaps we could chat about a schedule for future shifts so that I can plan accordingly. Like, perhaps we can talk about this another time so that if you need help in the future, I can ensure that I've got the capacity to support you in that way. This way you're being really clear about your boundary, and you can offer a helpful solution. Now, for me, that was a necessary step towards just being able to implement boundaries, saying no, and not feeling guilty. And so what you'll discover in your own journey around, cultivating assertive communication and being able to say no without guilt, because at the start you're going to have guilt. It's about leading yourself through there to this ideal, what we want. And there's going to be many, many steps. So like I shared with you, I started as I was tuning in, how do I communicate my boundaries? I'm like, oh my goodness, I say no. When I say no, I apologize a lot. At least I'm saying no. You understand? At least I'm still communicating. And so that was the first step in my journey of implementing boundaries that stick, setting limits that honor my time, energy, and joy. And so I want you just to understand, we get to be patient and kind with ourselves in this process. Now, it's just as important as expressing yourself is truly listening to the other person, being present, actively listening, paying attention to their words, their body language, their emotions. Again, you can feel people, not just what they're saying, but what is actually going on. It's crucial in this process of cultivating connection and love. And this helps you to understand where they're coming from, but it doesn't obligate you to change your boundary. You can be deeply empathetic, compassionate with their situation while still holding firm to your own needs. Okay. And the more present you can be in your relationships, which again is why I equip my beautiful clients with a Bliss Toolbox and why I rely on it all the time, is because in every moment, what is in our responsibility is how we can support ourselves to be centered and calm and present. And that helps us to prevent misunderstandings, reactivity. It fosters more respectful interactions, right? It minimizes the conflict. It helps us to prevent burnout. It helps us to step out of overwhelm. It's not about never feeling overwhelmed. It's about, what can I do to support myself when I feel overwhelmed, to come back to a centered, calm place. And here's the truth, not everyone will react positively to your boundaries. I assure you, most people will. But there will be people who will push back, try to guilt trip you, test your limits. Kids are really good at that. Give you silent treatment, get defensive. And this is where the real work begins. learning how to support yourself when you feel triggered or hurt, or like you need extra courage to hold your ground. Like there's this abyss that you can find yourself in where, like I said, you know how you want the boundary to look like and feel like, how to communicate, but we got to learn, there's this process of learning how to communicate clearly. Initially you might stammer and find that the words get stuck in your throat, and just need additional support and kindness from yourself so that you can stay calm, reiterate your boundary, disengage from a conversation if it gets really heated, if it becomes unproductive. You might have to walk away, and having strategies for dealing with that resistance is crucial. It's crucial for you maintaining your well-being. It's crucial for the relationship and preventing burnout. Simply put, you know, implementing boundaries, communicating boundaries is about being, I believe, about being kind but firm, compassionate yet consistent. Yeah. And that's because my relationships matter to me. That's because I'm very clear as to what my values are and ultimately how I want my life to look like in alignment to that. And so that kindness but firm and compassionate yet consistent boundaries are really important. It's the blend that I find in how I communicate that really is going to nurture my life so that it's in alignment with my heart and what's most and what I value the most. So in the work that my clients do in Burnout to Bliss, when they go on their own journey, this work helps them to navigate their old relationship dynamics and potential reactions, and how other people can project or withdraw, or how people act out when they're hurt and they don't know how to support themselves, because the vast majority of people do not know how to meet themselves on an emotional level, emotionally regulate and actually be centered and calm in conversation. And look, I'm going to admit it, I too am messy at times. We all are. And I think that's the normal process. And we get to just love ourselves, especially when we're messy. And it starts with, cultivating strength in life so that we can handle all of it, because inevitably there'll be challenges, but also cultivate compassion for ourselves. If we start with giving ourselves deep love and compassion, this process of growth and evolution and, stepping into power, stepping into empowerment, yeah, and in turn, cultivating empowered relationships, then when we have compassion for ourselves, we have more to give to others. And it's where, my clients start to really step into this place of power where they can see why someone behaves the way that they do. They can see them in their wounded child, in their hurt. And it's not about condoning another person's behavior when it's not being skillful, but it does help to support change, especially in the relationships that you care about. Because if you're like me, I've been in a relationship with Nick now for more than 19 years, and so there are, of course, patterns that get set up where we can get a little enmeshed and codependent, where I enable certain behaviors, where he enables certain behaviors from me. And it's just sometimes we just, all the time, in terms of giving ourselves freedom to grow, compassion is essential for that. When we give ourselves compassion, we then, there's a lightness to our journey, and we can really embrace what is normal and natural in this process of learning, growing, cultivating wisdom, taking the steps, inspired actions like that's required, the big conversations, the big decisions when it comes to boundaries. Now, when it comes, another word about communicating around boundaries is to be prepared. Just be prepared to repeat yourself again and again and again. I want you to walk away knowing that boundaries are not a one-off thing. Okay, this requires work. And you're generally, if once you get that boundaries are essential to your health and well-being and your success and a life of fulfillment, honestly, the best thing you can do is just be like, I'm in the classroom of setting boundaries that honor me for the rest of my life, and I'm just going to learn how to do it in the most skillful, awesome way. Because when you do, everyone and everything benefits. There's no other way for you to have a full heart if you don't have boundaries in your life to honor you, what is most important to you. How do you have a full heart that overflows to other people? So, you know, especially people who are in your life who are used to accommodating their needs, like your kids, like your partner, like your mum, your boss, then communicating and being prepared to repeat your boundaries again and again and again and again is going to serve you so much. It's not nagging, it's about consistently reinforcing your limits. Be patient, be persistent. Acceptance goes a long way here. If you just remember that it takes time to change and be okay with it, it's going to protect your energy. It's going to prevent you from slipping back into old patterns that contribute to burnout and that sense of like, oh, my relationships are broken and this is just the way it's going to be. Finally, setting boundaries can be really emotionally draining. It's simple, not easy. And prioritizing meaningful self care after these conversations is going to help you help you stay the course. So this is an invitation for you to give yourself love. For new habits and behaviors to truly stick, you really need to understand your emotional needs, what they are, and how to meet them while setting boundaries. If you don't, it's likely you'll slip back into what has felt comfortable for many, many years, what feels safe, even if it's not. That it's better the devil I know than the devil I don't, right? That kind of scenario. Even though you don't like giving everything to everyone else and feeling so depleted and exhausted, if you don't know how to meet your emotional needs in the new you with healthy boundaries, you're not going to stay the course, because for sustainable change to happen, it's absolutely crucial to learn how to give yourself the validation, the assurance, safety, love, connection you need, so that you don't seek it in unhealthy, unkind ways, which is hello, sabotage. Okay, those sabotage patterns are giving us an emotional payoff. When we say yes, when we want to say no, there's a reason for it. And I speak a lot about this in other episodes about emotional needs. It's why I focus on this so much in my Burnout to Bliss program, because our behavior is driven by a desire to meet our emotional needs. It's not a conscious thing. We think logically and rationally, and we think, oh, my behavior is going to align with that. No, it's this bigger part of us that screams out for attention, especially if you're in the pattern of ignoring or suppressing your needs. Then you're going to find that your communication, or how consistent you are with setting boundaries, is like to the wayside. It won't be aligned with what it is that you truly want, because you're making it on a logical decision, not an emotional decision. So communication and learning how to support yourself while implementing boundaries that last is a really, really big topic. It takes a lot of practice, but it's so, so worth it. Now, this is the kind of incredible, life-changing work that I do with my clients in Burnout to Bliss. It's all about equipping you with the tools to communicate effectively, to navigate those tricky conversations, situations, circumstances, to create lasting change, to discover spaciousness even when you're being pulled in every direction, to have time for the things that matter most, even though right now it's just like you're constantly chasing your tail, never seemingly any time for you left over. Like you get in the dregs. And if you're ready to dive deeper into this work, transform your relationship with yourself, reconnect with you, like implement boundaries, and know how to set limits, know how to set boundaries, I invite you to book a free, what I refer to as discovery call, a connection call with me. It's just a quick 5 to 10 minute chat to get clear on where you're at, how you want to feel, and what the next best step for you might be. And the link to book that free call is in the comments or in the bio. So be sure to check that out and take advantage of it. So this week, as you navigate this whole life and the need for boundaries, and you reflect upon, am I good at setting boundaries? I'm going to invite you to pay attention on how you communicate your boundaries. It's this middle path between passive and aggressive communication. Assertive communication is about being specific and direct. Are you making assumptions? Is your ego getting in the way? Are you actually speaking up? Are you withdrawing? Are you exploding? Or are you actually hitting the sweet spot? Remember, clear, calm, assertive communication, being specific and direct, is absolutely key. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. You've absolutely got this, and I can't wait to support you further. Bye-bye. It's been so beautiful spending this time with you. If today's episode sparked something within you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the love. Are you done feeling overwhelmed and burnt out? If you're craving a curated, holistic framework that addresses burnout on every level, body, mind, heart, and soul, to get you claiming your life on your terms, then my Burnout to Bliss program is perfect. Apply for a free breakthrough session with my team, and let's deep dive into your unique situation to help you reclaim your energy, joy, and power. Now, if you'd prefer to get a taste of what's possible, then come join our amazing Bliss Sisterhood. It's our low-cost, high-value monthly community membership, and you'll find the links to both in my bio. So stay tuned for the next episode, where we'll unlock even more secrets to living a blissful life. Remember, you are powerful beyond measure. Take care.